Kris James, partner and investment advisor at Escala. Kris, first of all, thank you very much for attending and participating in the Insider Network's Investment Leaders Forum, Noosa 2026.
Thanks, James. It's really good to be here.
Great pleasure having you here, Kris. A lot of leaders in the wealth industry, Kris, would be familiar with the Escala name, but maybe not with the full breadth of what the firm does. Can you give us an overview of Escala and your role within it and what type of clients you serve?
Yeah, sure. So Escala, we were formed 13 years ago. People may not realize that. We started in Melbourne. We've got offices in Sydney and a presence in Perth. And, the business was primarily set up to really focus on the ultra high net worth space in Australia. And so really that just involves us providing investment advice and solutions to sort of large families, successful business owners, individuals and non-for-profit organizations. My role in part of that, as an advisor, is really just to understand the client, their needs, and make sure that the advice that we provide through, a clear investment strategy and portfolio is fit for purpose.
One of the themes this week, Kris, has been how the world is changing rapidly, both in a macro sense and certainly the advice industry, the pace of growth in that is changing. But given that the macro and the geopolitical have returned with a vengeance to the forefront of investors' minds, what are the challenges and opportunities of dealing with the client relationship side of things? Have you found it a little bit more pressing to talk to clients and hold their hands to an extent?
Yeah, James, look, it's a really good question. And, it's really on the topic of a lot of clients, mouths right now. It's just the amount of news and headlines, that they're reading day in and day out, and it's creating nervousness. And it's definitely sparking conversations. And, that is the challenge, right. I guess what we're dealing with right now is a very noisy environment. There's a lot to take in. It's vast. And there's implications and not. And I think what we sit down with clients to understand, which is the opportunity, is to understand what we are in control of and what we're not. When we sit back down with clients and go through, their investment strategy that we've put in place, has anything changed? In light of the events that's transpired over the past quarter, just alone, do we need to make any change in particular to their portfolios, and just sort of reassuring them, around the long term, because this is what happens naturally when markets create a lot of noise. Clients really their objectives shorten very quickly and are very close to their face. So it's about us actually setting those back out into more of the long term.
Even before the markets blew up with Middle Eastern conflict, there were in the advice industry those issues of technology and consolidation and the regulatory backdrop, which never goes away. But so given all of those and the Middle Eastern conflict, the global headlines that you're dealing with, what parts of your work are you focusing on more in 2026 than you have before in your career?
It's really, driving us to not rethink, but just to make sure that we're particularly clear on, what strategies we've got in place for clients and their portfolios, and in understanding the implications that has come from all of the points that you've just given rise to, and articulating that to clients. Because in most part, nothing has really changed. We're very conscious of what is changing, but for clients that have a very long-term investment strategy in place, we've also got to make sure that we're not getting emotional with the headlines as clients do. So it's just making sure that we're really clear on the strategy at hand, and if there's been any departure from what has transpired over the past couple of months.
I know that leadership is a huge focus at Escala. Thinking about leadership yourself, what's a piece of advice on leadership that you might have heard over your career that is still really front of mind for you every day in your advice career?
Yeah, look, what seems true to me is lead by example. It's how you show up every day for yourself, for your clients, and for your colleagues. I think, good habits over time, repeated, will just form, great outcomes over a very long period. So that's my advice.
Kris James from Escala, it's been a great pleasure having you here this week, and thank you very much for your time today.